Welcome to the Bubblewrap Podcast. I'm Ashley Walker from HSE Advice UK, and we're here to protect your business and make safety pop. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Bubblewrap Podcast. We're in for another episode today, and welcome Jon.
Thank you,
Back
thanks for having me.
Podcast studio.
Back again.
Record 2.
How are we doing?
Yeah, not bad, yeah. Apart from the miserable day.
Miserable months.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had a summer, have we?
No, absolutely not. Horrendous.
Yeah, so have you had a good summer anyway? Have you been anywhere nice?
Yeah, busy. Yeah, been over to France for a couple of weeks. In the meantime of that, been busy with work and lots of new clients, lots of new exciting things. So yeah, it's been busy. What about yourself? Been away anywhere?
No, not yet. So not counting, 2 weeks, 5 days. We go away for a week we're only going to Tenby, South Wales.
Nice.
But be nice just to take the dogs, beach walks, and just not have my laptop.
Hopefully a bit of better weather as well.
It'll be winter by then, won't it? Yeah. But so welcome anyway. Do you want to introduce who you are and where you're from?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Jon from Empirical Tax. We're a tax consultancy business. We specialise in R&D Tax Relief. We have a new service line which we'll touch on as well in a short while. Been in the industry for 12-13 years. We ultimately help businesses to claim R&D tax relief in a very turbulent market at the minute. So we set up the business 14 months ago to make sure that clients, customers are on the right side of compliance. Accountants, referral partners are comfortable with working with a partner as well, like ourselves. It's been an interesting ride. Obviously,
smashing it, aren't you? You and Zoe.
So myself, we're based in Chorley. My business partner Zoe's over in Chesterfield. Obviously, we've been working with yourselves on on some of the business mapping side of things, and it's been really good, beneficial, and give us a lot of ideas and things to think about, which has led to different things that we're exploring now.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed the business mapping.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It kind of opens up your eyes to what your business could be. But then working as a team, as a group, it's been nice, like with the other businesses as well, sort of feeding off each other, giving each other ideas and...
Yeah. The collaboration side of it and the thoughts that come from other people, my ideas, always, we're not always right, and it's good to get your input and the rest of the team's input around, think about this, think about that, could that work? So I think it's been really beneficial from the outside in perspective to align with where we want to go and what we want to do, which, like yourselves, we're all on a journey. And
I know, and it's learning, so much learning. I don't know how other business owners do it, but every day I think I learn something new, accounting or people management, HR, and it's a minefield. Yeah. So tell me about R&D then. So from someone who doesn't have a clue what R&D is, and I get emails all the time. I must have an email every day about you can claim your R&D tax relief, and I don't do any R&D.
No, lots biggest misconception. Do you qualify? Yeah. Lots of companies don't. Yeah. But lots of cold calling, cold emails. Yes, you do. Kind of scare tactics a little bit to put a claim in, but ultimately from an R&D perspective, research and development tax relief, businesses seeking to achieve an advancement in science or technology is the big scary kind of sentence that sits at the start of it all, but that underpins the relief in its entirety. If you're not advancing science or you're not advancing technology, whether it be from manufacturing, engineering, software development perspective, chemistry, you're probably not going to qualify. So really we work with businesses that are developing innovative products, processes, systems to make sure that they can claim back, their entitlement from HMRC and the government. So, you're absolutely right in that sense. There's lots of companies that have done a cold calling campaign, targeted sectors that typically wouldn't have R&D, care homes, retail, food and restaurants.
Why waste the time?
Exactly.
Well, I mean, the people sending the emails, why waste your time?
Exactly. And there's a lot come out in the press in the last couple of weeks around a certain company that is targeted on, cold calling, unqualified personnel in terms of identifying, qualifying R&D, and that's coming to head now ultimately because of everything that's happened in the previous years. COVID was a massive kind of consideration for companies. Do we need cash? Yes.
Okay.
Cold campaign, should we put a claim in? Now it's getting unravelled that they should have never claimed. Could that have penalties, fines, interest imposed? Potentially, yeah.
Because it's the same with any, say I put in my end of year accounts, I can get is it an inquiry? Is it called an inquiry? Or I can get HMRC come and say, we're going to do a audit. Yeah. And that'll be the same for the R&D, won't it?
Yeah, exactly. So, in the past it's been a submit your claim is repaid, or repayment issued, or deduction on your corporation tax. And then really HMRC's approach in certain instances has been, review the claim after and inquire later. Pay now, inquire later. Right. What we're seeing now is a lot more thorough checks being undertaken.
I was going to say, is there no, I submit and they go, yes, approved? There was none of that. I could just submit something and go, I'm taking that off my tax relief.
So historically, you could submit a number in your tax comp, you could submit a number with a one-pager, you could submit a full comprehensive report, upfront disclosure, which is what we've always kind of worked on the basis of, projects costs. You've got to identify them clearly to be able to make a claim. Yeah. But Revenue's approach now is to inquire and ask a lot more questions around the projects, the costs, and that's ultimately been underpinned by a lot of changes around the rate of the relief, so that's dropped in light of error and fraud. Additional information form came in August last year, and that was mainly to make a uniform approach to claiming R&D. Like I say,
so that's like a new application form, or?
Yeah, pretty much. So you can, in the past, you could have, like I say, submitted a one-pager, you could have just put a number in. Now you have to complete an additional information form, 5 kind of key headings under the project, cost analysis to sit beside that as well. That has to be submitted before numbers even put in the tax computation. So it's really about making sure you're upfront with that compliance, the disclosures, make sure we've done everything. Otherwise, the relief will get denied. You'll get a letter saying you've not done this, this and this. Claim is withdrawn until you can either rectify it or don't submit a claim because maybe you shouldn't have, and they're trying to try it on, which has obviously happened in the past, and that's why error and fraud's gone through the roof. 1.13 billion was the latest stat.
No.
So
1.13 billion?
1.13 billion. Big number, probably bigger. There's still a lot of unravelling to do from an inquiry perspective, and there's lots of ongoing inquiries. And to be honest, some of them are legitimate that they shouldn't have claimed. Some of them, inquiries happened.
Could business owners have been misled? Absolutely. Say if someone came to me and went, you can claim R&D on whatever, and I go, oh yeah, well I did this project, and they go, yeah, that's fine, let's submit, and I get tax relief. How far back can HMRC say, we're looking into your books?
So the onus is ultimately on the taxpayer. So if you've submitted a claim, they'll come after the tax back from the company that's put the claim in, albeit there might be an advisor sat behind it, or it might be they've submitted the claim themselves. They can go back a few years, depends on what they're looking at. If they're saying it's careless or deliberate, it depends on, has reasonable care been taken, there's a full upfront report, but actually what sits behind it maybe doesn't qualify, but they've taken the time to do a report. There's various different measures, but they can go back a number of years depending on what they discover and what they find. So it's really
it could be detrimental, like.
We've seen cases where a company maybe shouldn't have claimed. They've put a claim in for a number of years. They've asked us to help with the current inquiry, and we've said ultimately the project doesn't qualify. So you're going to have to withdraw the claim. Now, historically, we weren't involved in the preparation of those claims. It may have been the same case for there, but it's ultimately about upfront disclosure to say, we didn't qualify. Why? We thought we did, based on X, Y, and Z. But we're going to withdraw the claim, and that upfront and honesty around, it's got to be the way forward for the compliance side of things to make sure that, you're right on the right side of compliance, which exactly from your side and health and safety, one minor thing can result in.
Oh, I know, and just the cost and effect on the workforce, and also the sanity of a director, because the weight of the world's on their shoulders. And if they're, I suppose, submitting an R&D claim themselves, having to do this new form, what was it called, additional information form? I'm assuming that's quite a technical form that you have to fill in and put all the evidence in.
Yeah, exactly that.
It's well worth getting someone else to do it, really, that knows the stuff.
And we've had clients certainly come to us in the last 6 months and say, oh, we're gonna do this ourselves. We've always done it ourselves. And actually there's been a bit of a culture change around actually we need someone to help us now to make sure that what we're putting into the form is the right information around projects and costs.
They want the claim, they want the tax relief. So to make sure they get approved, you have to do it right.
Yeah, and lots of companies have been put off claiming because of a rate drop, because of the inquiries. Is it worth the while? Company that's getting back £5,000 of corporation tax, by the time they've paid a fee, by the time they've had an inquiry and paid for inquiry support, what are they actually getting out of it? Well, actually, it could have been an eligible project. It could just be that there's 2 or 3 directors and they all claim a 12 grand minimum salary. The cost base isn't going to be as high as if you've got 3 employees that are all on technical and staff at £60,000, for instance. So it's all correlative to what that looks like. But £5,000 could be a really good cash injection for a smaller business. Yet your bigger businesses, it might be immaterial that it's less than 50,000. So companies have been put off through this inquiry process.
I suppose, though, taking it a step back right to the start of deciding on doing a project, if you plan the project and do the project well, where you think about those things, then it could end up in an eligible R&D claim where you're not necessarily using the director's time doing it, it's those paid employees. And making sure you plan that, not just going, oh, we're just going to do a project.
And HMRC put a massive emphasis on record keeping now. So, anything from the outset of a project where they can ask us a question around how do we need to record this from a project perspective, from a cost perspective. If we can put records in place at an early stage. One client that we work with, they claimed 10, 15 years ago, they got an inquiry back then, which was quite rare. They got told ultimately that the project at the time didn't qualify, and therefore they didn't claim for a number of years. Now they've got a new product development team. There's 6 people in the team. They ultimately have qualifying projects. They said if we are going to look at making a claim, we want to make sure we have the records in place to substantiate against it if there is a future inquiry. So one thing we did there, project-wise, they track throughout the year, key uncertainties, key failures, what's happened, degree of difficulty. From a cost perspective, they do a little bit of an extreme, but they do every employee that works on a project. They log every single hour, every single week in a spreadsheet that they have on a team meeting every morning. They don't have a sophisticated time record system, but it's about logging that detail as and when it's available. So from that side, they've made a claim for the last, I think, 2 or 3 years now, which has been qualifying, beneficial. It's ultimately that common sense approach to making sure we've got the relevant things in place. Should questions get asked, we've got the records to substantiate. So
and it is a really positive thing because the UK needs more innovation, product development, so we don't become stagnant in the industry. And you want it to be as easy as possible, to make the claim as easy as possible, but correct.
What needs to be accessible, saying, a few have spoiled it for the many, but actually over the last few years, the many have spoiled it for the many. There's been a massive shift in that, mainly because of potentially, third parties saying, yes, you do qualify when they don't, or companies submitting a claim out of kind of a, we need some cash, desperation position. But ultimately, all those companies now are getting, it's getting unravelled and it's getting unpicked. It's a beneficial relief for those that are eligible for it, and some people have clever ideas, they have unique ideas, they have bespoke projects, but ultimately, does it advance science or technology? And that's the key differentiator between HMRC, view at the minute and what certain companies think of, yes, we qualify because it's bespoke, it's unique. Is it industry advancing? Is it technologically uncertain? They're the key words that we need to look at and say, does this project qualify? And it's difficult to let a client down who maybe has an expectation that they should claim, and they've claimed for the last 3 or 4 years. Should they have claimed? Maybe, maybe not, but in the new world, error, fraud, fines, penalties, interest for miscompliance, we need to make sure we're right on it. So difficult conversations, but I'm sure it's like yourself from a health and safety perspective, there's some difficult conversations you need to have.
Oh, I know. When I suppose, because I don't like being the negative Nancy, but when we do go in and do an audit, you do have to have difficult conversations of, this is something you really need to prioritise, and I'm really sorry it's going to cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
A prime example that keeps coming up is fixed wire electrical certificates.
Okay.
You'd assume that everyone knows what it is, but they don't,
Yeah.
and it's true. And most people think it's up to the landlord, that they have to do it, and it's not. You know, in my office here, we're in a really small office.
Yeah.
By the end of my lease, I have to provide the certificate under my lease, and you know, depending on the size, it can cost thousands.
Right.
And you know, it's a big chunk of money that people aren't aware of.
No.
And to go and have that conversation, go, I'm really sorry, but
Put your
hands in your pockets. Yeah. But I'm just thinking, you know, in line with the projects and the R&D tax relief, my sort of trail of thought then was like the culture side, because if you've got sort of innovations that are an advancement to technology and science, and you're getting the employees' input, you know, those ideas and how we can make things better in our industry, that really affects the culture of a business.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just, you know, getting money off the corporation tax, it's the whole culture around it and the development of the business. And me as an employee, if I'm in a company there who has that sort of projects, that team developing that, I think, oh yeah, you know, I'm in a really good organisation that's looking to the future.
Yeah, some companies, you know, when we define what a dream buyer looks like, and some of what we've done on the business mapping, you know, it's those who collaborate, it's those who bring the team in. You know, we need to speak to the technical people, not just potentially, you know, your finance director, your managing director. We want to speak with those technical staff to get everything out of their heads, and so we can put it onto paper for them. And I think that collaboration is really important, because, you know, in some companies, the culture you say, those companies that are actually upfront with their employees to say, you know, we have these qualifying projects, we need to make, you know, an R&D claim ultimately, we need your help with it, and what that does is that relief that we're going to get back off the corporation tax, we'll actually reinvest that back into the new product development R&D budget for the next year. So it gives an incentive for those technical members of staff that maybe, you know, don't want to speak to myself and Zoe and they just want to crack on with the projects, but actually that's reinvesting in what's next, what's coming, you know, future projects. We've got a bigger budget to reinvest.
That could be their personal development as well, can't it?
Exactly. All fits with that story around what the R&D was ultimately meant to do, was to boost innovation, boost skills, allow the money to be invested in, you know, your business, projects, employees, apprentices. That's ultimately what it was meant for, not just to drop off the corporation tax.
I think it's probably some people just assume that's a way of doing it.
And some people rely on it. Some people massively rely on it from, you know, the perspective of we paid £50,000 corporation tax and we've got a, you know, £40,000 R&D claim that's going to come off it. We'll have to pay £10,000 of corporation tax one year, while we'll rely on that sort of similar position year after. You know, it doesn't work like that. We've got to evaluate the projects each year. Are we at the start of a project? Are we in the middle? Are we coming towards the end and there might not be any qualifying moving forward? So really important to have them upfront, honest kind of conversations, because the difference between £50,000 corporation tax bill and 10, it's a big number. Have they got to find it? What have they got to do? You know, is there any future strategies that we can put in place at that point? Are there any future projects, or is it a one hit?
And you've got to plan way ahead, years ahead, haven't you? Years ahead. Oh, it's really interesting though, because from someone who's never really heard of it, well, kind of snippets in the past. I've got one client who they have so many innovations in their field. Like every time I go and do a visit, I go once a quarter, they've got something new, and it is industry defining changes, you know, and they're very safety conscious. So they've got like stripping tanks, but they've got LEV on it, and then they've changed it and adapted it. They get customer feedback, and just seeing how that progresses is really, really cool.
Constant improvement, constant looking at how we can adapt, how we can be better, how we can be more cost effective as well. You know, that's one of the key things of, we might have a product, but can we make it cheaper without compromising on quality? So that side of things is looking at, you know, is there different materials, is there a different process, that side of things. That sounds like pretty much what they'll be doing to make, you know, a constant strides towards excellence and be that industry leader ultimately.
Definitely. No, it is good. I do find it interesting, but it's not a topic that comes up, is it? Really?
No, you know, I think some accountants are very aware, and they either, you know, have people employed in house to work on the claims, or they outsource to, you know, a company like ourselves. Some other accountants, maybe a smaller accountant that does mainly compliance services.
Yeah.
It's really about spotting the opportunities and saying, actually, I'm not qualified in this regard to help you. Have a chat with X, Y, and Z. They're gonna, you know, they're gonna help. They'll be able to guide and say, yes, you qualify, no, you don't, or what we need to do to make sure we, you know, can claim if there's an eligible project there. So it's really about, you know, lots of people have abused it, like we've talked about, but actually pinpointing the right businesses, making sure those records are in place. The emphasis is massive on the record keeping side of things, and provided we can do that, you know, if an inquiry came, we'll defend it, we'll walk you through it. You know, one of our clients did have an inquiry after submitting an additional information form. We believe that was purely because they wanted to see that, you know, the project was real. Lots of companies can make up a story and a narrative. This company absolutely qualified. So they basically asked for pictures of what the project looked like at the start, what it looked like at the end. The client had real detailed drawings, and there was about 15 iterations of these drawings throughout the project. We sent that back with a little bit more supporting information narrative. And that resolved the inquiry.
Really good evidence, that.
Yeah, the more drawings, the more, you know, sporting evidence you can have. But that's, I'd say, a very rare that you can resolve an inquiry in one letter. That was a named caseworker, which is great because you can pick up the phone, you can speak to them. A lot of the inquiries are a small business team. It's very centralised. You might not get the same person first or second response. The questions that come back are very stock first time round, and then on a second response, has it been thoroughly reviewed with, you know, we've seen one where they ask for name, job title, salary, percentage per project. In the first letter, we responded with all that, and then the second letter, it asked the exact same question again. So it's kind of a...
Is it trying to trick people out, or...?
I think it maybe has fallen into that centralised system of dealing with an inquiry rather than the personal touch of, this is what the report says, this is what the first letter says, reviewing it all together, you know, fine, we resolve that inquiry on letter 3, but that can be, you know, 6, 9, 12 months down the line, and all the uncertainty that we've talked about, if somebody's put a claim in that's £30,000, and it's got an inquiry, and is it going, you know, the inquiry going well because they see the value in the project, or they're saying it doesn't qualify? You know, there's a big difference and uncertainty around that. It can impact on, they maybe thought the next claim was eligible as well. So there's a big sway there for 2 years potentially. So it's you know, a massive burden that a company's got to bear with a lot of uncertainty as to will it be successful. You know, we can guide and help, of course we can, but it's ultimately about, was that report right first time round? Did it give the, you know, full information around projects? And you can still get a random inquiry, but that records and supported evidence is key. Absolutely.
So how did you get into it then? What's your background, I suppose?
Yeah, so I started out in an accountancy firm in 2011, 2012. And to be honest, worked in the R&D team there from the get-go. Worked there for 4 or 5 years, trained whilst doing that, tax exams. Joined a few businesses since, accountancy firms, and then obviously decided to set up where we are now. Really because we know we do the job right and proper. You know, we like to help clients, but if there's a project, you know, we had a conversation yesterday, one project qualifies, one project was very borderline at best. We've said, no, that doesn't qualify because it's not worth the time and investment on, you know, delving into that. And ultimately, we couldn't answer the 5 key questions properly. If we can't answer them with sufficient detail, based on the competent professional talking about the project, it has to come out. So, yeah, my background's always been in R&D Tax Relief, last 12 years or so. Lots of, you know, geographically, manufacturing, engineering companies. But ultimately supporting, you know, I'd like to say hundreds of clients to claim. Like I said, there's no pre-approved process or approved process say, yes, this project qualifies from HMRC. But I think, you know, the types of businesses that we like to work with are what we define as pure R&D. You know, proper development, clear projects, clear planning, it's got to stack up when you're looking at that project to say, industry advancement, are we ticking that? Speaking with the team, the competent professional that HMRC are playing, massive emphasis on at the minute. Who are the key people driving the project?
It's your reputation as well, so you have to make sure that the projects are right.
Absolutely. We don't want to put something in and it come back on ourselves or an accountant or a referral partner and the client. It's ultimately about, if we have to say no, it's for the best interest of the client. Nobody wants to give that.
No business wants to turn around and say no to a project or no to a new client.
No, exactly.
They don't.
But it's the right thing to do in a lot of instances, and that's what we've been, the last 14 months we've said no to a lot of people, again, for all the right reasons. And some take it the right way, some take it maybe not the right way and go and speak to somebody else, but, such is life. So they may have gone and put a claim in with somebody else, might not have got added inquiry, but
might not have done, but the risk is ridiculous to their business.
Historically 1 in maybe 100, 200 got an inquiry, 3-4 years back. Now it's more like 1 in 5.
Wow.
So a massive shift.
That's significant.
So there's a real chance, rather than where we were 3, 4, 5 years back, you've got to make sure we're right. So that's.
I understand why the government have done it 100%.
Absolutely. Like I said, the many spoiled it for the many. We've got to make sure it's right. Can set a precedent quite quickly if there's said care homes, said retail, food and drink, companies that never should have been anywhere near putting a claim in. If there's hundreds of thousands that has gone out in relief for that, it needs to be nipped in the bud and explain the reasons why. So how did you decide, or when did you decide to set up yourselves? So we set up 14 months ago, really from that aspect of we want to make sure that the claims are done right. Really, I think it's always been kind of in the back of my mind to do this and set up a business and run the business. So it was always there. Like I said, we know we do the job right, and working with Zoe and it's really been a position where we both think very much alike of how we need to act, what we need to look at from a project perspective. What company?
You've got really good values.
Exactly that. We can't be slightly off it, because if we're slightly off it reputationally, we're getting bad press. So, it was, if we don't do it now, we'll probably never do it. Which I know we've spoke about this with various things, but take the leap, and worst thing to happen is you after starting up, we might have to stop, but. We're 14 months in now. We had a good, touch wood, good first year. Plenty of exciting things moving forward. And a nice kind of order book, I suppose you'd say, client list that we're working with, referral partners. So a lot of our business now comes from our referral network.
Oh, right, brilliant.
So, we don't, like I say, cold emails, cold call. We don't cold call, we don't cold email. Reason being, we want to build relationships with people. So, and
it's all, people buy from people. Exactly. It's relationships, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that. And that's how we wanted the ethos to be, around the people centric. And if we can do that and build that, your customers will follow, or your customers will come, and your referral partners, because, like I said, people buy from people. So that's been a massive part of, early days especially, doing enough of the right things. And when you do the right things, it reaps kind of rewards on the back end. So
totally.
We know what this story looks like, and we've obviously defined it like you've defined it for the next few years.
I hope so.
And it's exciting.
What's new then?
What's new? So new service lines. Obviously we do the R&D, that's our bread and butter. 98% of our revenue comes from R&D at the minute. But on the back end of that is really the opportunity around grant funding. Companies who maybe don't have an R&D claim in, they might have one year 1, might not have one year 2, but they might do a project year 3. But do they need some funding to support that project? Are they looking at new equipment? Are they looking at new products? What does that look like from a business perspective, and what do they actually need? So we've identified that, grant funding is an opportunity. Yes, there's companies that do grant funding in isolation. Do they really get to the root cause and understanding of what that business is, where it's going, what the short-term, medium, long-term looks like, and what do they need? It might be some asset finance, it might be some funding from an equity perspective or a loan, but actually it could be something that's within the community. Within,
you've got a unique sort of perspective of working with those businesses, knowing them in detail to find the grants,
knowing exactly what they want. So it sits hand in hand with, if they're developing a product and we know that actually they're going to need to buy a piece of kit for it, and then it's £30,000 and they might only have £20,000 and there's a grant available. Well, can we help and assist them with getting that, unlocking that real extra funding for them? So that's new, that's exciting.
That's a really big opportunity.
We think so. Like I said, there's lots of people that do it and looking at venture capital, loans, equity, that side of things. But we're looking at this from more of a what local grants are available, regional, national.
It's so hard to find grants because I do some work with a charity and it's just a village hall, but actually it takes up a lot of my time. I love it. But just to find grants on improving the property, the building, the maintenance, anything like that. We found only one recently for, that we can help improve the heating, but the time and effort to even just do a Google search and then put the application in, and every application form's different and you don't hear back and all sorts. It's just the time and cost and effort to put.
And that's what we've recognised, business owners, what's important to them, what's precious, it's time. Time's the biggest commodity. If they're spending, 5 hours a week looking for a grant, that's 5 hours that could be spent in their business. So we want to take the kind of pressure and stress away. And if there is something that is available, they'll know about it through the system that we work with. And we want to say, listen, this is available. It probably fits with exactly what you're planning on doing. Now, by all means, you can go and write it yourself, or we can help. So we can write it for you, we're going to need some information from them. Exactly same interview style as we do on an R&D claim. But we can take that time back to let them focus on the business. And then if there is something that's available, they'll know about it. So it's something that we believe is lacking a little bit. There are automated things in the industry, software solutions, but ultimately that personal touch that sits behind it to say, we believe this one's probably right for you. We can't guarantee, the application might be unsuccessful. If it's successful, great, but this is what you've said you want, this is what is available, this very much aligns, now we can write an application for you. So, like I say, nothing's guaranteed in a grant funding world. It's difficult to get a grant, but if you don't try, you'll never know.
What is it, in it to win it? It's true, but it's just a lot of effort. Where I'd much prefer to pay someone to do it for me who is an expert in it, because it's like writing a press release or an article or get
the specialist in to do the specialist work, and that's what we've found. We've recruited recently to bring somebody in to help on the grant funding side of things.
First employee,
so that's really exciting time.
How do you feel?
Good. I think it's going to take a lot of the kind of not day-to-day running, but the day-to-day of actually finding new clients, new opportunities. It's a value add that we can provide outside of the R&D as well. So it doesn't just have to be we're looking for R&D clients. A grant funding client might come from any sector. You've just mentioned your churches, your village halls. It might be a CIC. That's a market where there's lots of funding that's needed and available. There's all sorts of different opportunities and avenues that we can help. So the person that we've got that's our first employee has a bit of a background in grant applications.
Oh, amazing.
She worked a few years back around Sport England grants and that side of things. So it's a really good base to build that service line from. So
it's hard to find an employee that can do all sorts of different
and within a small business, a small business, it's we've got to pivot, we've got to adapt. We've got all sorts.
It's a big step, isn't it? I remember in and ahhing, do I take someone on? Do I take the risk? Do we have the money for it? And but it pays off.
Sometimes, I know we spoke about this in the past, but speculating to accumulate, not just from a financial perspective, but from a serviceability, value add perspective as well, the opportunities that we can now, present and have and, make sure we service clients the best. And that's one thing we didn't want to do with starting the new service line of grants, is we didn't want to devalue what we do in the R&D. And that, exactly that. So that comes with that employee specialist, somebody to help and assist on that side, as well as, you know, building a portfolio of clients. So it's new, it's exciting.
You got your new office?
New office, yeah. So last month we moved into a new office. Consolidate our base, really. You know, we've had a year both working from home. I was in Chesterfield, I'm in Chorley. You know, a bit of distance between us, but consolidate a base, somewhere that we can build from. You know, not a massive office. You know, it's not a palace, it's not a mansion, but it's a place.
My first office was a shoebox.
Yeah, it's a place to call home in essence, to build kind of the foundations further. Year 2, you know, what can we do, where can we go, and then build on from that. So
is your office in Chorley?
Office is in Chorley, so newly kind of purpose-built offices. Small independent businesses, so we're on a floor with 6 other businesses. You know, we've got accountants, we've got mortgage advisors, we've got recruitment, financial advising. There's various different businesses in there, so there's kind of a real buzz of small business and supporting each other in that side of things. So a good place to be, and exciting, you know, things to come, and we'll see where we ultimately get to in the next year, which I know we'll keep in touch on the journey and see what we can do together as well. So
brilliant. Well, thanks for coming in. It's been really good. So everyone, make sure you check out Empirical Tax. If you've got any R&D questions, anything at all, contact Jon or Zoe, and then myself as health and safety, of course. But it's all about R&D today and compliance. Yeah, it's been really good, and I've learnt a lot, which is really good. You know, this is what I wanted.
And I think we spoke last time. Key takeaways. You know, compliance is key.
Compliance is key.
That's the, you know, what underpins from a health and safety perspective, from our side on an R&D, from a grant funding perspective, you know, the more we can be upfront, the compliance, the record keeping.
Well, even grant funding, we, last year the Village Hall did have a grant, and we did do a lot of building work. It was really good. And we got a query. They had to do an audit. So people don't think sometimes even getting a grant has to be all, you know, you have to have your evidence, your invoices, receipts, your programs, everything. Yeah,
certain grants at the minute, we're seeing, you know, the money's got to be spent by, say, 31st of March 2025.
Right.
So how to document that, and is that going to happen? You know, if it's a building project, for instance, are those people, are they going to turn up on time to complete those works? So that's the key thing to say, is this realistic that you can do that project in that time frame? If you get the funds in, you know, say September, you've got a 6 month project to work on. Is it feasible? Yes, no, maybe. You know, we need to turn that maybe into a yes, or if it's not, it's potentially not the right grant for you. So lots of fun stuff going on. But no, thanks for having me. It's been really good.
Great. Thanks very much, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed our episode, please subscribe to our channel. All links to our social media are in the description below, and if you have any questions, please leave a comment or message us. Bubblewrap, to protect your business.